Well, we're joined now by Maya Angelou's close friend, Sonia Sanchez, who was Sonia was a renowned writer, poet, playwright, activist, and one of the foremost leaders of the Black Studies and the Black Arts movement. She's the author of 20 books, including Morning Haiku, Shake Loose My Skin, and Homegirls and Hand Grenades.
Sonia Sanchez joins me here in Philadelphia. We welcome you back to Democracy Now! It's such a pleasure, Sonia, to be with you in person, though sad on this occasion. Maya Angelou's death. Maya Angelou lived 86 years. She died in North Carolina. Talk about how you first met her and share your reflections about her life and her contributions.
It's good being her sister, Amy, and you're right, it is a very sad occasion, but anytime I can hear and see her perform, you know that she'll live forever. I first met Sister Maya in the 1960s. And that was a period where we were all gathering together to change the world. I saw her on a couple of occasions at affairs where we all read our poetry. I most especially remember her in the play The Blacks, and she came out in her tall 6 feet majesty, and you were just stricken by her beauty and by her grace. And I still have in my memory when Lumumba was killed, Louise Merriweather and Sister Maya climbing, going over the walls there at the UN. They were protesting, and to have seen that, you stood there in awe.
The first president of the Congo.
Yes.
The democratically elected president.
It was an amazing moment to see the resistance that they were doing there in New York City at the UN. But over the years, I got to know her in so many ways on the road when we read together at various occasions, and going to her home there in North Carolina when she was giving her birthday parties. Sister Oprah would give birthday parties for her, and she had everybody you can imagine. I mean, you imagine that person. That person was there at Sister Maya's house in North Carolina for birthday parties. It was, you could call her on the telephone and cry and say, what a terrible mistake I made. You could call her and say, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And she would listen and say, dear Sonia, you need to come on down here to the house and just rest for a while and sleep. And you need for me to cook you some good food,
now,
too.
Sonia, she lived in a lot of pain. She was raped when she was a child.
Right.
Then, and the rapist was her mother's boyfriend. Right. He was murdered. And is it true she stopped talking for 5 years to everyone but her brother?
That is what we were told. Yes, right. You know, this is an interesting thing, this idea of people not talking. Audre Lorde also stopped talking at some point in her life. When my grandmother died, the trauma was so great that I began to stutter. I was the child that went, and luckily enough, and I mean this, that stuttering saved me a great deal, because my sister and I, after my grandmother died, were sent to house to house to house. And as I walked into the house, it was announced, oh, here's Pat, she's the beautiful one, my sister, and here comes Sonia. So just give her a book and put her in a corner. So it's amazing, but I think that, you know, when you don't speak, you know, when you're quiet like that, you are filtering out perhaps all the damage that was done to you. You know, all the pain gets filtered out, and finally, when you do speak, you are healed.
Sonia, I wanted to ask you, Maya Angelou was already an accomplished singer, dancer, actress, but then she gets involved in the civil rights movement. Could you talk about the relationship between her art and her activism? And she worked with both Martin Luther King and then with Malcolm X later.
Well, there was no separation for us between our art and activism at all. Sister Bernice Reagan talks about the blues singer Montgomery, who said, we all come here naked. And even though we all come here naked, one of the things we have to do is that we have to make arrangements for other people. You know, those of us who were artists and activists began to make arrangements with other people beyond ourselves, So this is what she did. Yes, and she raised so much money for the civil rights movement. People forget that. She and Brother Harry Belafonte raised money because the movement needed money. So yes, she marched and she did all these things that other people did, and she wrote, and she knew Brother Malcolm, she knew Brother Martin. She was in Africa, she knew Nkrumah. This is a woman who simply at some point moved constantly with her art and her activism and saw no problem with the two of them.